son, where'd you find this?
Buckle up, buttercups. It's time to get down to business. Oh, yeah. It's the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. Totally legit.
Welcome back to the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. It's me, James, and I'm joined by the magnanimous Michael Moshman. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, good friend. So happy to be here. It's my very first podcast.
Here we are. Now, you and I have had many a discussion, a spirited debate. And one of the things I guess I always appreciated about that is like we, even as kids, but definitely as like we grew up, we kind of valued the conversation over just sitting and watching TV or something. Like we enjoyed doing that, but we all always would like really get down on a good conversation.
Agreed. I think whatever we were ended up doing always evolved into long conversations.
Yeah. So this is an important conversation.
Oh yeah, important moment in history.
That we're memorializing this on this show. So like we chitty chatted. You were just up here in New York, like enjoying yourself, having some fun with the family.
Oh, we had a great day together, you and I.
Yeah, we really tore up Williamsburg. We went to that arcade. Did we even game at the arcade?
We didn't game. We only conversed.
Wah. Yep. See, but there we go. So that's exactly why. So while we were there, you expressed to me your interest in the Titan submersible as it was the hot media topic at the moment.
Had it happened already when I saw you in Brooklyn? I feel like it hadn't happened yet.
I don't know. Oh, I guess maybe not.
No, it hadn't happened yet. We only talked about it after the fact. We were talking about a lot of different things that day.
Oh no! Oh, this is so silly. The reason that I'm equating that is because when we were there, you kept making the Hunter Biden joke.
Yeah,
you kept like that was just like
because it was coming back. Yeah,
it was topical, and you were like, that's like the diversionary tactic. That's like.
They finally got people to care about Hunter Biden again.
Focus on Hunter Biden. I think it's hilarious because the conservative people started to get bent out of shape about the OceanGate thing because they thought it was a tactic to distract the public from the Hunter Biden story. I guess that's why I'm
to be honest, I hadn't heard
mind.
that specifically. I haven't heard that specific statement that it's distracting from Hunter Biden. Wow.
I was trying to
look they got to murder billionaires to distract from Hunter Biden.
So be it. It's a law of nature. I tried to look up to see if there were any like prevailing conspiracy theories around it. And this was like well after the implosion, like well after the fallout had begun. And the only one that came up was like conservatives are convinced it's a diversionary tactic to...
I mean, I think that one I didn't actually hear. I think there's other sort of minor conspiracies circling around about the rescue effort and how the rescue effort was largely just for show, and they had potentially had a lot more information than they were revealing. Obviously, that's probably true, but I think some people are deep diving and assuming that they were making a really elaborate show of the rescue effort that they knew was futile from the beginning.
But why?
Because of how high profile, this is just me speculating, but because of how high profile the sub was and how, even before it left, everyone was watching and the people on it were high profile and the whole, weird Titanic submersible James Cameron community was watching this guy. And so, they mobilized two different navies to go after and coast guards, Canada and the United States. I don't know about European as well, but they mobilized so much to go after these guys. I think they wanted to make it seem like they were doing everything possible, even though it's potentially possible they heard the sound of the implosion very early on. And I think some people maybe are being more vocal about that after the fact, that, yeah, we heard the implosion, but, we had to keep looking anyway. And maybe that's the right thing to do.
Well, I would say, yeah, in any rescue effort, it's not over until it's over. It's not over till you find the thing.
No doubt. And I'm not coming after the Coast Guard or the Navy who go after her. They're going to try to rescue anyone, of course. Just the amount of cost that went into that rescue, because it was so high profile, is a bit disturbing to me, when the people down there were taking an immense risk.
Yep. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. I had seen on there, on all the videos and articles that I read, that at least at the point at which I was reading all this shit, the only source that confirmed knew about the implosion was the sensor, like the classified sensor for the Navy. And the Navy knew about it days in advance, but they just didn't say anything because it would possibly reveal the location of it would compromise the classified nature of the sensor that recorded the implosion.
You mean when you say
me.
sensor, you mean the underground network of audio devices they have down there?
I don't know. It was classified, but yeah, I mean, for sure, we've probably got probes like that. We're listening for Russian subs or Chinese subs. That's what we're listening for down there. But they heard that
historically,
and didn't say anything, just because it's like, well, we can't necessarily disclose. But then the information gets out anyways. But are you saying that there are now other sources saying other branches of the relief effort were aware?
No,
they heard it and they were aware, or just that?
I just heard that there was, they have sound obviously travels really well in water, so they can detect things with precision.
Yeah.
For a long time now, they can detect things with pinpoint accuracy underwater, at least when it's audio. And so they just have a whole network. And I assumed it was the Navy, possibly the Coast Guard, I don't know, but certainly the Navy, that is monitoring 24/7 for noises in the deep water. And they heard something. They heard the pop. So no, I don't think other sources had heard it, but it seems to be the case that they heard it. They assumed it was probably the vessel imploding, but they did not announce that. And yeah, sure, that's going to compromise the location. It's going to compromise the whole relief effort, potentially, to reveal that. So I don't think it's a legitimate conspiracy, personally, that they would hide it for a nefarious reason.
No, I would agree with you. That's unrealistic to think that. It's if anything, it's for standard national security, classified secrecy laws.
Right.
Like that's why they didn't say anything, because then it would reveal that we had that kind of equipment, and maybe the military doesn't want the world knowing we have that kind of equipment.
I assume we've had that kind of equipment for decades. I mean, since subs were invented.
We for sure have, but it's probably still very classified, and it's probably evolved considerably over the years.
I think it's pretty sensitive too. I think that
that's what I'm
technology
saying.
we have down there, travels far.
It's very serious. It's the equivalent of when I can't remember what plane it was. There was a plane that got lost. No one could find it, and then ultimately the American government was a little bit later was like, look, we have reason to believe it's maybe in here. We captured it with this satellite that we don't necessarily want to talk about. So we've seen something over there, but we can't, give you more information. Like that, they do that shit all the time, but it's purely out of if a classified satellite captures an image of something that could benefit civilians, you're left with a conundrum. Do I keep this very secret military device and its capabilities? Do I keep that a secret, or do I give that information to benefit the people who are struggling here for whatever reason?
Well, this bleeds into the reason I think they want it to be more nefarious, is because this was such a high profile rescue effort that there was potentially money on the table in terms of clicks and views, if they could prolong the investigation.
Yeah.
Sorry, I heard myself for a bit there.
No, it's all good. Are you getting any echo still?
Yeah.
Son of a bee sting.
Just started.
On. Yeah. What about now?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, now it's good.
Okay, cool.
Fixter.
That's my issue, dude.
What was I saying?
Shit.
It was so the idea that they heard the bang, but it was potentially a situation where major news networks and even minor news networks or even as people like streamers were thinking, we can milk this for a lot of views, and indeed it worked. You look at videos, they got tons of hits. The whole world wanted to know what was going on with this. So if it was just an instant like, we heard an implosion, it's probably them. They're not coming back. We're not going to get them back. There would have been no news coverage.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not saying I agree with that, but I think that's one thing is people assumed they were hiding information in order to milk the rescue effort for as much as it could be worth.
Well, that is not like, and that's like, bro, from the perspective of the news organizations, that's not nefarious. That's like standard business. Like,
True.
how do we really milk this for everything that it's worth? And, we've already moved on hilariously.
Oh yeah.
And, like they had to, if
to some extent, there's more coming out though. People are definitely still talking about it.
There will. I mean, I'm sure there will be like long-term analyses that will come out and have even more shit to say about it. But I don't know. I just think it's funny in the sense that it's just hysterical to me that we gave it so much attention, and we always do. It's like that fucking South Park episode with Britney Spears and Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus. Like we just moved from media sacrifice to media sacrifice, and this one,
the next martyr,
this one was hardcore,
sacrifice.
Dude. Yeah, did you fucking hear it? Did you listen to the sound?
I did not. Maybe I did. Maybe I did. Oh my God.
Okay, hang on.
Obviously, I didn't hear what you heard.
Yeah, okay, so I've seen a lot of really fucked up things. I've heard a lot of really fucked up things too. Okay? And I differentiate the things that I have seen from like horror TV shows or movies in that the horror I know is fake. So even like the goriest horror or most brutal, thriller movie, it never terrifies me because I know it's fake.
But you've seen stuff that's not fake too.
When you see real shit, there's a subtlety to it that is the most sinister thing. It's not the amount of gore. It's honestly like the empty spaces. It's, I don't know, and in particular with recordings and having to listen to them over and over again, there's just something super sinister the more simple it is, because that's really how simple this shit is. Not everything is like a movie. In fact, most of the most horrible shit in this world, it's nothing like we portrayed in the movies. That is a comically dramatic interpretation of how this shit can go down. So the first time I heard this, I was like, damn. And I had to listen to it a couple times, and I haven't listened to it since. Because it was.
I assume you're going to play it for us right now, because I need to hear it now.
This, I think it's important even for people who haven't, other people who haven't heard this. But let me see if we can fucking get this to actually work here. Yeah, we should be going to the stream. All right, so let me see.
We're learning more about the days leading up to the tragic discovery on the ocean floor, the debris of the Titan submersible. The Navy reportedly detected sounds consistent with the Titan's implosion back on Sunday. CBS News' Doug Williams joins us from the newsroom with the very latest. Doug.
Mary, news of the Navy's discovery on Sunday was seen as a surprising development by some, but experts say this was not a case of miscommunication on the Navy or Coast Guard's part, but rather an attempt to exercise caution. Last night, Navy officials telling CBS News that an acoustic anomaly consistent with the Titan's implosion was detected on Sunday, shortly after communications were lost. Naval officials saying that information was shared to the Coast Guard to narrow their search.
It would have been nice for the Navy to let people know. I mean, obviously, it was the ROV, the remotely operated undersea vehicle, that found the wreckage. But think of all those planes flying back and
a retired Navy
traffic failure of the hull. They will
regulations was considered
Really?
investigating.
Okay, hang on.
Well, I still agree with a lot of what he just said there. Exactly what I've heard from a lot of sources is it would have changed the whole course of the effort if they had announced that they had heard that pop.
Oh yeah, completely. And I know there was like a super huge argument about, I'm going to find this fucking video, but I know there was a super huge argument about like people who are just like pissed about the resources. And yes, I am annoyed that the resources were spent in the pursuit of this, but also like,
I'm in that camp for sure. At least annoyed.
No,
for
sure.
Softly.
For sure. It's pathetic, but it's like, dude, you want to like, all right, let's get out the fucking list and start listing off like every layer from local, city, state, federal. Let's look at all the wasteful bullshit.
No doubt.
That could be spent in the endeavors of something much greater. But
this was just a salient, very noticeable example of that. High profile. Where not only is this, I mean, what this mission was cosmetic. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they weren't going to collect any data down there. They weren't doing valuable research. This was purely touristic. And so it's just a really obvious example, like I said, of when our massive military budget has no problem on a snap of a fingers, when we've got to save some people, we mobilize everything. And I understand that, but to mobilize at this moment for these people in particular, it's a bit extra hysterical.
That we, the Navy, know probably are not alive.
Right. And so, like he said in the video you just played, the guy's like, for all the planes flying overhead. And, they were potentially searching miles and miles. I don't even know, square miles of undersea that they didn't have to, because they could have pinpointed, like I said, with precision, exactly where the acoustic anomaly would have occurred.
Yeah, no, sure. Okay, I think I've got goddamn ads. Okay, oh, here it is, buddy. All right, just listen to this. That's it echoing into infinity across the ocean floor. But you hear it's two distinct pops. That's the big one. Like the way I heard it analyzed was that first pop is a big one, and that's like the initial compromising of the fiber hull, and then the big. The seal got broken, and then after the seal got broken, it was like 4 seconds and then squish.
Well, I'll tell you, that was spooky. I have not heard that.
Isn't it? It's just like, again, it's just plain and simple.
If I may, that sound, the first thing that came to my mind is that is the sound of the ocean not caring about what you're trying to do.
I say this all the time. Like, humans like to think we're these big bad creatures. We don't have any say.
Ocean is always just waiting. Like, oh, you think you're badass?
Well, and every,
I'm coming.
Every territory kind of has that. The ocean has that, but there's plenty of places on the land that have that. Even space is the same way. Like, I don't care. Oh, your suit's a little loose. Sorry, your head's gonna explode. Like,
Yeah,
that's just
you're a genius and you designed everything perfectly. Yeah, I don't care about that either.
time for you to liquefy.
Obviously,
that
doesn't apply to the OceanGate situation. He did not design everything perfectly, but
yeah. So I guess let's get into that. We've caught up with each other's knowledge base on this. Let's really kind of dig in here now. Again, everyone kept kind of pointing to the fiberglass hull. That seems to be the big one. But there's also, the thing is, this thing was suited to go a little bit into the ocean. That was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Just where it was trying to go with this thing, it was far too much. Fiberglass hull, the windows, or like the plexiglass viewports, those were also
singular. I'm pretty sure it's viewport.
Oh, no,
singular
you're totally right. Yeah.
On the very front of it.
Yeah. They were just trying to go too deep. Now, they had gone on a bunch before, right? Had they taken it down to the Titanic on a few other times, or?
That specific vessel, I don't know. I honestly don't know. If it had been to the Titanic before, that would be news to me. I knew that vessel had gone down before on smaller scale trips.
I wanted to say, I read somewhere that like they had taken it on trips and they had done some like kind of stress testing with it, but that it hadn't undergone like a serious overhaul since the stress testing. So it was like double layer of fuck. Dude, it's lawless. Here's the thing I don't get. This is the thing I don't get. I get if you're a struggling individual who's trying to go submersible or build a sub and you have to do it on a budget. I get that. When you're a fucking billionaire, you just build a legitimate submarine. It doesn't cost $1 billion to build what he was trying to build in terms of submarine.
James Cameron proved that. He's not a billionaire, and he built a great one.
For a super reasonable amount of money, he would have been completely respectable and ethical in the sense that he's going to take other people on this craft and say that it's safe.
If you watch footage of that guy, when that's one thing is now we mentioned how society's moving on, as we always do. But there is a lot more people starting to speak up, and there's a lot more info coming out. And people are like, well, actually, I had this interaction with this CEO back in the day, and I had this interaction, so a lot of information's coming up, and there's footage surfacing. If you watch this guy talk, the CEO, I'm forgetting his name right now.
I've got it right here.
It'll come back
ridiculous. To me. Stockton
Rush. Thank you. He prided himself on his, ability to MacGyver this. He saw the regulations as like a challenge, and indeed they did challenge him. They're like, you should probably, get this certified in all the various ways. It's not just like certified or not. Like you said, I think the portholes get certified, the hull gets certified, each little individual piece needs to be certified. And he saw that as, I literally saw him say he saw it as a personal attack when people accused him of not having done his due diligence about constructing this. He was like, no, that's an attack on my personal ability to engineer a craft. Pure hubris.
Hubris comes before the fall. Yeah, exactly.
I've seen it live on camera. I mean, this guy sitting with his, with the Logitech controller in the craft, in interviews, he's like, oh, I have full confidence. I made this myself.
I don't know. It's just fucking stupid to me, dude. It's like, just build a legit thing, and like still aim to do it for as cheap as possible, but just still build.
Well, that's everything. Everything ever. Yeah, they're always trying. Everything is built as cheaply as it can be built.
Right.
But there's still hopefully regulations to make sure that a bare minimum is met.
I don't know. It's like comically tragic in so many different ways.
It's the Titanic all over again. It's the exact thing that happened with the Titanic, as James Cameron taught me.
Have you heard the thing about the Titanic actually being the Olympic?
Oh, you mean being a different ship?
Yeah. That it wasn't actually the Titanic that was sunk, it was the Olympic. And
this sounds so. No, let's say no. I feel like it reminds me of something, but what's the ship at the bottom of the ocean then? Which one?
well, that's what they say is the Olympic. I think there were two when they were built. There were two of them, the Titanic and the Olympic. And there's people, especially with the Titan submersible, there's been a bunch of people posting about how, they're going back and looking at photos of the Titanic and they're looking at the ship at the bottom of the ocean and it looks like the Olympic. And people have said that for a long time, but it's just like that's a thing that got reinvigorated because of the Titan submersible. Just because people were talking about the Titanic and there was pictures of the Titanic.
They're like, oh, just to remind you, that's not the Titanic.
Yeah, well, I think the sentiment was, let me reanalyze this thing, let me rehash this thing that's already been talked about. I don't know if it's been conclusively decided one way or the other, but they're
so
like,
what do they say happened to the Titanic then?
I don't know. I either that's somewhere else or that was sunk for some other reason. And I think there's also the conspiracies that go along with the Titanic, where the Titanic was not accidentally sunk. It was purposefully sunk because there were people on the boat that international business interests didn't want to survive and they all died. And it's not unheard of in 1900s world. That
we'll never know.
Fucking world too.
But as the facts are still that the captain of the Titanic was warned heavily about what he was doing and where he was steering the ship, and he did it anyway, like full speed, to try to make the best time possible. So maybe it was done with foul play, perhaps, but at least the main facts are still that the captain could have put on the brakes and that could have saved everybody.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just wondering if you'd ever heard any of that shit. That was
not specifically about the Olympic, but
yeah. I mean that has specifically ramped up because of the pictures of the Titanic. Like the fact that people are talking about the Titanic more, and there's been a bunch of pictures of it. There's been a ton of people like, I was looking at pictures of the Titanic and from the OceanGate shit, and they don't look like the same ship. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that brings me to the main thing that keeps coming back is the weird fascination that people have with the Titanic. And I'm learning after this incident, I've learned that there's not even just billionaires, but there's a whole community on the internet that is obsessed with the Titanic, and people are putting away money and saving everything they can so that they can one day take a trip like these guys did and go down and see the Titanic for themselves. Like, it's a weird phenomenon. And I think that, it's resurfaced a lot of people being like, oh yeah, I'm always been interested.
Well, Titanic was a great movie.
It was. I genuinely love that movie.
What the fuck is your problem with Titanic? That's like peak Leo, bro. It's peak Leo. What do you have? What do you have against Titanic?
Easy, partner. Peak Leo was Growing Pains prior to Titanic.
No. He
was on the sitcom Growing Pains.
That's pre-Leo. That's pre-Leo. Peak Leo is Titanic, buddy.
Proto-Leo.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Proto-Leo, yeah.
Well, I loved him on Growing Pains.
He was great. I'm not minimizing him. He was amazing in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. But that wasn't peak Leo. Peak Leo was Titanic.
What's Eating Gilbert Grape was definitely Growing Pains. It was a good movie.
It's a good movie. Anyway,
in any case,
I digress.
The community of Titanic obsessors. I don't know whether, I assume the movie fueled that, but even before the movie, I have to assume that there were people out there going nuts and poring over this weird historical event that just kind of sticks with us no matter what. And here it is again, just once again coming back.
Yeah, the meta-analysis of this, like, the company's name is OceanGate. So like the first thing you see on there, you think like, oh, here we go. The media came up with this stupid fucking slogan for this thing.
Literally.
But then you're like, oh no, that's the name of the company.
No,
oh, okay.
He named it that.
that was stupid. And then the fact that it's the Titan submersible that's going to see the Titanic. It's just there's so many like layers of meta stupidity that I like the first few times I was reading it on the TV, I was like, what the fuck does any of this mean? How is this relevant?
Is it even real? Like, is this even a real story?
Seriously.
Yeah.
What is the point of what you're telling me here? And I don't really have sympathy for Stockton Rush. That was hubris. He flew too close to the sun, or I guess dived too close to the bottom.
But no, see, I don't think that's even a fair analogy. Icarus flew too close to the sun because he had hubris too, of course. But his original endeavor was like to escape prison and like free his father or something. That's the myth. And that's why they built the wing, so he could fly out of prison. Stockton Rush was not trying to save anybody. He wasn't trying to do any altruism in the world. He just wanted to take people on his little touristic journey. So I think even Icarus is like, yeah, bro, you fucked up.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you. It was nothing more than a really self-serving science experiment that he was doing. Like truly, and like you just look at the design, it's like you don't even care.
I don't even know that I agree with calling it a science experiment. I don't even think that's fair. I mean, a science experiment has
a frivolous hobby.
I mean, maybe there's information I don't know. Like a science experiment has a goal, a hypothesis. It's going to come out with data.
To be fair, his hypothesis was I can build out of my ass. I can build
I will
this piece
survive
of shit
this trip.
submersible and take it down and defy the fucking laws of physics, which are known and demonstrated everywhere. Like that he did have a purpose. He was just so fucking ignorant.
Well, it's a respect for the elements that was lacking. And that's what, that's partially what hubris always is. But, whenever you go outside into the real wilderness, whether it's space or whether it's mountains or whether it's ocean, you must remember that it doesn't care about you, and it will kill you as soon as it can. Emotionlessly. So
we're a molecular component of their existence. So we don't really rank on the scale of importance.
No. Not at all. And this is just and the Titanic was a moment of that too. The captain tried to steer full force ahead and the ocean was like, yeah, I don't care about that. I'll take your ship.
Oh, the ship's unsinkable? Yeah.
Unsinkable,
huh?
Oh, it's unsinkable?
You think the ship's unsinkable?
It's unimplodable?
There was another one. That was another moment, even before all this shit, like when we first learned about the story of the Titanic. That was another one where I was like, fucking hubris. Leave it to humans to not even have that much experience building ships like this, to build a ship like that and say, it's unsinkable. How the fuck do you know that? This is the first, like, you know what I mean? Like, we haven't been doing this shit this long. You can't be saying it's unsinkable. We haven't even, like,
I would love to get James Cameron in here and ask him, because I bet there's a good answer for that. Of why, like a scientific reason why they thought it was unsinkable, and I don't know the answer.
Well, probably because it was metal.
More than that, I would hope. I would hope a more complex answer is out there of why they.
I think you're giving humans. I think you're giving humans way too much credit. They're like, this boat isn't entirely wood, so it's unsinkable.
Hey, maybe it was as simple as that. I do want to give humans some credit because we do crazy shit and we risk our lives to do it when we break new ground like that. But they must have thought, beyond just the composition of the boat, just what, I don't know. There must have been some new design, some new engineering that they thought would made it unbreakable, because it broke this way as the movie teaches us.
But is that okay? Are we gonna take the movie as the history lesson? Do we know that for sure?
No,
is that how it happened?
No. Whoa. The way it sinks in the movie is how it sunk, because you can see it in the pictures. Like the nose of the ship went down last. You know what I mean? The architect says it in the movie, and I'm very confident that that's realistic. From listening to James Cameron talk about the Titanic very recently, he made every effort to make the actual sinking of the ship in the movie seem as realistic, true to life as possible. Yeah. I mean, if you remember the scene, the architect is like, get to the front of the ship. That's what's going in the water last.
I really don't.
I'm sure. Have you seen Titanic, James? I'm starting to doubt it.
Not all the way through. No.
What?
Yeah, I've only seen like an hour and a half at a time, but just like in different chunks.
Okay, but you've seen the end where the ship sinks, right?
Yeah, yes, I've seen that sequence a few times.
Okay, good. It's terrific. It's terrific filmmaking.
It's the best part of the movie. It's what everyone went to see. So
agreed.
But I just find it the hilarious, again, the meta comedy here. The Titanic exists. They say it's unsinkable. Maiden voyage. It sinks. 100 years later, this guy says, "I'm going to build a sub that's impenetrable, and it's cheaper than any sub ever been created." Takes it down to the Titanic. It implodes. Everyone dies. It's just like, I don't know, like, what's the fucking, is the Titanic cursed? Like, what's the fucking rub here? That's a lot of very distinct and strange tragedy in.
Well, I must once again,
I don't know,
bring James Cameron back to the conversation, because I think he's really cool. And that's the short and sweet of it.
He is really cool.
He talked about it. The community, this weird, ultra depth submersible community that he's a part of, he's a big celebrity of, they have had almost no casualties before this for decades and decades. Like they've had a perfect track record. The community takes it really seriously, and every vessel that goes down is rigorously tested. I mean, this is just, I'm just parroting what I've heard, but apparently before this event, there's been not even injuries, So it's a huge shock for that weird, esoteric community. They're like, what the heck? I mean, it just, ruins decades and decades of careful trips that have had no casualties at all. Obviously, many trips have been canceled. They cancel them on the slightest little bit of weather. They cancel them, if a pin drops or the wind blows wrong, they cancel them.
Same thing with rocket launches. Yeah, it's the same level of seriousness.
And obviously, this is the Challenger moment, where it's like a very visible, historic moment where everybody watches while it fucks up. But
well, I have a buddy who is a pilot, and I was asking him, I was like, how is it that this could have been so lawless? Like, with a plane, there's so much shit you have to go through just to be able to get onto the fucking runway. And even
I agree.
It's not a guarantee that you're going to be able to fly. It's contingent on a number of different things going perfectly, including, human error not existing. And he kind of explained it to me like this. He was like, in flight, not only are they concerned about you keeping yourself safe, but they're really concerned about you fucking hurting other people. So there's all these rules and there's all these regulations to make sure your plane is up to a certain type of spec and maintenance, to make sure your skills are up to a certain type of spec and maintenance, that you're held accountable for any misbehavings, and they're super strict about how you address on the radio, and everything has to be a certain way, and you can get in serious trouble with the FAA and they'll revoke your license. But in submarines, that doesn't exist. There's no FAA for the ocean. There's very few people, like you were just saying, that community that James Cameron is a part of, that's a niche percentage of American population, a subset of a subset of a subset of groups of people with highly specialized skills and an equipment. And that it's just a little more lawless in the water because less people are there. If you want to do some dumb shit out there and hurt yourself, there aren't many agencies to stop you from doing that. And
that's fair.
That's fair because there's just too much. We don't have the resources to police the fucking ocean or regulate the ocean like that, like the same way we do with air travel. And the bottom line is way more people use air travel. Very few people use submersible ship technology to transport themselves or anything. Anyway,
and certainly not, ultra depth submersibles. I mean, people are on boats a lot, but this is
even so,
like
even boats, it's like the boat traffic ways are in no way the level of seriousness and dangerousness that air traffic ways are. Boating is just a little more lawless. It's easier to get your license. It's like everything is easier because they're just like, it's the ocean. If you die, it's the ocean. If you're not careful,
another one,
it's going to take you, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can't sue it. So,
but the thing that confuses me is there are these regulations. There are certifications that this guy was able to just ignore, and with this particular vessel at least. And I think that's coming out more and more, is that not only was he ignoring certifications, but the company now that he left, the company that's left over is very vulnerable to extreme lawsuits because it's all coming out that he didn't have all these certifications. So whatever regulations you're talking about for air travel, I think they do exist. I think he was just trying to get by, and he was having people sign these very flimsy release forms.
I can't drive my plane to an airport and jump on the runway and take off, right? But he can absolutely load all his shit onto a boat, go out into the middle of the ocean, and drop it in the ocean. There's no one to stop him.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? Like that.
There's no air traffic control. No doubt.
That's what I mean by that. Is that it's he probably didn't. You're totally right, and clearly he didn't because the shit wasn't to spec. It didn't survive. But there aren't a million fucking patrol officers patrolling every inch of the goddamn ocean to be like, hey, that's submersible. Do you have your license and registration? Like, that's just, you know what I mean? It's like it's not on anyone's radar until it becomes a problem, until a bunch of like really rich people die. And then it's like, oh my gosh, why did we not have, how did they bypass the regulation?
Mobilize the Navy, dude. Yeah. Agreed. And I think, there were obviously people monitoring the submersible within his own company.
Yeah, within the company. Yeah. With the what is it, above water boat? What do they call it?
Yeah, the support vessels.
Support vessel. Right.
I don't know what. I know what you're talking about though. So they were monitoring it and they lost communication right away, and that's when the pop came. Not long after that.
Yeah.
They probably didn't even last a matter of hours down there.
As soon as they lost communication, that was it.
Yeah, I read about how the unlikelihood, even if they had found the vessel intact, people alive, waiting to be rescued.
The time to come back up.
No, not just that. The logistics of transporting people at any depth like that from one vessel to another / literally ramming into it to dislodge it or whatever it needed to get to resurface on its own, extremely unlikely. Like it was going to be an insane feat of human technology to even bring it back up. And basically it needed to be able to surface on its own because they could not possibly transfer people to another vessel. So whatever happened, if they found it, they would have needed to, I don't know, just knock it until it could resurface. I don't know.
It's just, and the other thing there for me too is like these rich people that were going on here, they didn't say anything. Like super rich people, I have a feeling they would walk up to that laughable excuse of a Lego sub and be like, I'm not getting it. I fly on planes. I know what a nice plane is. This does not
people
look like
did refuse,
a nice sub. Really?
Lots of people. Oh, yeah. Lots of journalists are coming out and saying like, yeah, I was invited to take a trip on this, not this particular journey that went wrong, but just previous trips, previous voyages. They were like Journalists are coming out saying they didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Other passengers, like I said, the list is long of people, poor and rich, who are desperate to get down to that Titanic. I don't know why, but they're desperate to get to look at it for themselves. And people are, looking at what's available. And I guess $250K is probably relatively cheap for what they're trying to do. But then, people were backing out on trips in previous months.
Whenever you're talking about the people who are into the Titanic, I keep lumping them into the same category as the people who read the Twilight books. Do you remember those, Team Edward?
Yeah. Oh.
They just I don't know
Do not
why.
get me started on Twilight.
Whenever you say that, it makes me think like I just imagine them as a bunch of like rabid Twilight people, but instead of Twilight, it's Titanic.
I mean, there has to be a Venn diagram there. There has to be an overlap.
Oh, you're 100% accurate. Yeah, there's gotta be. We'll Google search this right now.
Yeah, I would love to. Personally, I would love to talk about the really morbid stuff.
Yeah, okay.
We started to talk about it. We started to talk about it with just the spookiness of hearing that noise.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned in just like the last, week or so, is the speculation that and I think you overheard me talk to Sam about this last night. The speculation that they did a nosedive. Essentially, they were trying to do a sort of emergency ascension, and so they dropped weights, and something tipped them. And that would have made the passengers go to the nose of the vessel. And so potentially, because people talk about at least they went quickly in a matter of milliseconds, or even less. I don't even know, a very small number of milliseconds maybe. But it's potentially possible that before that pop, they were free falling in the ocean for, I don't know. I've heard up like 30 seconds to a minute that they potentially were pushed forward towards the only window, and then just were able to, and then it was just sinking. And that's speculation. That's just what I heard. That,
dude, it's
people analyzing how it would have sunk if it sunk, and because it wouldn't have just fallen flat horizontal the whole time. It would have eventually tipped one way or another.
To think that they would have been sitting still without in any way disrupting the direction of the ship, like they would be freaking out.
Right. There's no seatbelts, dude.
Yeah.
It's not like the captain's like fasten your seatbelts. Like, everything's fine. Don't worry.
They're free floating in there, and especially shit starts to get weird. People aren't going to sit there and be like, "Oh, okay, I guess we'll just wait."
And they were in a.
You can't
underestimate how small
tipping.
It's like you couldn't stand up. It's a small little pod. They couldn't stand up. They were basically smashed together in this little pod. It was only supposed to last for a day or 8 hours. It was supposed to be an 8 or 10 hour trip or something like that. So yeah, it was not comfortable to be in there, and I don't think they each even had like a seat they could buckle into. I mean, what would it even do? So yeah, I think the bodies potentially went forward, and that just made it nosedive straight down. So they might have had. Anytime someone's like, "Oh, they at least went quickly."
No.
It's like I think maybe they were very afraid.
The actual transition for them from life to death was very fast. Like the moment that they stopped being alive, that happened very fast. They didn't suffer in that respect, but I'm sure they were terrified. Even if they weren't in a free fall, when they heard that first pop, they knew. Like they would have known.
Well, I think the pop would have happened after the free fall. Oh, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
we don't know if the free fall happened.
And even if it did, so they get to the bottom of the ocean, and then they're like, okay. But then once they heard that pop, that there's a good 3 seconds of, oh, we're dead. That's it. This is it. Squish.
But did obviously we had the CEO, and there was that French explorer, the undersea expert, who was on the boat too. But the other the dad and son, I don't know.
Yeah.
Tourists, did they have any idea? If they heard noises like that, did they have any idea? Like, well, that's game over. You know, I just wonder how much they really knew.
The Dawoods, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a fifth person that I can't remember.
Yeah, his name is Harnish Harding.
What was his? Was he an extremely wealthy person as well?
I mean, I would imagine so. That or he was just an affiliate who came along for the ride.
Maybe he was the pilot. That's what it was. There was like a pilot. Or maybe the CEO was piloting it himself. I can't remember this. I learned this and I forgot. Forgive me.
Yeah, dude, it's just.
But here's the other bottom line, if I may, is that people are like, "Oh, he had a a gaming controller for his to steer the ship." That's not safe. And so many gamers are out there being like, the gaming controller is not why it crashed.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not because of the gaming controller. No. It's not because of the Logitech controller.
Definitely not. And besides, we fly drones and kill people with drones. We fly them with Xbox controllers. So I don't know if that's news to anyone, but they're effective. They're effective controlling things.
Tech bros are out there on the internet being like, and just normal gamers too, being like, no, this is not Logitech's fault.
Don't put that on. Yeah, don't put that on the controller, buddy.
No, I mean, that's part of it. It's a funny part of the anecdote. Just to look at, like you talk about the Lego set, like it's just funny that that's one extra thing that you wouldn't expect, but it's not because of that. It was definitely all the other like specs and regulations they ignored.
The game controller might be a dumb thing. Right, maybe he could have picked a more advanced controller situation. But that's just one small dumb thing on a very long list of dumb things this dumb motherfucker did.
Hey, he bragged about
with his own life. No, dude, I agree. All the videos I watched, those interviews, it's right. It's hubris. It's nothing.
He brags. He's like, oh, this, they're doing this for so expensive. I do it for so cheap. They're just con artists.
He took like this move fast, break things mentality to subnautical travel. Unfortunately, he did move too fast and he did break things. But the thing that broke was the sub that he was in when he was underwater and squished him.
Hey, and I wonder what the narrative would look like right now if he was still alive. If he had sent anybody else, or if they had gone, he hadn't gone himself.
Oh yeah,
and this had happened, and he was still alive to be like, Just how would he explain this? How would he explain away?
Come on!
So it's
come on, dude. He'd be like, I said this whole time. We need to do more testing.
It's in the waiver, dude.
Safe.
It's in the waiver. It's in the waiver.
Yeah, exactly.
You might die.
Exactly.
I read the waiver.
Just,
I read
the ocean is unforgiving.
Release.
The ocean is unforgiving, and we just don't know. We just don't know.
Literally, you would have it. I would pay to watch it.
Yeah, it would be a hilarious media crucifixion, and maybe it would actually turn into an actual crucifixion, which would also be tight.
Hey, it's about time we brought those back.
We haven't had a good crucifixion in a while. That's all I'm saying.
It's been a couple millennia since a good, memorable crucifixion.
Good old fashioned crucifixion.
Either way, I'm definitely I sleep okay, knowing that he murdered himself with his own mistake, and
that's
too many other people.
I kind of feel the same way. It's one of those things where it's like, dude, I want to feel bad for you, but I just can't.
I don't even want to.
I just can't. Well, come on, dude. There's like a layer of humanity. Even an out of touch billionaire fuck. Even an out of touch billionaire fuck is still a human. If you took away all his money, he'd just be a normal ass douche.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I'm not trying to.
Did he deserve to die? No.
I would say most billionaires probably do. Yeah.
Do I feel bad? I don't know how he amassed his wealth. So I don't make any necessary.
Well, no billionaire amassed their wealth without massive exploitation.
That is true. It's the exploitation of the resources.
He's the public enemy number one.
Yeah,
and that's a different topic for a different podcast.
That's
perhaps,
a totally different podcast.
It's a big launching point of my whole perspective on this. I don't care.
You seem to care, though. That's all I'm saying. For somebody who doesn't care, you do seem to know a fair amount of the nitty gritty details. All right. So
what I said was, I don't care that he
conversation.
died. I'm not losing sleep because this poor billionaire died.
Sure, bro. Neither am I. Number
It's
one,
good
I don't know
entertainment.
him, and it is. It's quality.
But if there's other
Quality
engineers out there,
entertainment.
pilots or bridge builders, there's other engineers who cut corners like this. Tons of innocent people can die and do die because of just, buildings collapsing from earthquakes because they didn't meet regulation or they thought the earthquake wouldn't hit there. This can kill these sorts of ambition can kill lots of people who are unsuspecting and have no idea. So for me, this particular incident only killed a couple people who were hyper aware of the risk they were taking. So for me, it's an easy enough situation to laugh at, and I don't feel too bad about it.
Yeah, I don't feel bad about it either. I'm not saying that nor am I chastising you. I'm the same. I feel the same as you. It doesn't bother me.
Come and get me, bro. I don't care.
In the least bit. And it's
some people are very sad. The Titanic community, not the James Cameron folk that are experts and are like, yeah, we knew this would happen. But there are people who are genuinely like, oh, I would have loved to see these people go to the Titanic and see the footage. They're very sad about it.
But they're only sad that they don't get to see the Titanic.
Well, they're sad that, the Titanic claims another life, I guess. It's like the lore, the myth of the Titanic.
Bro, honestly,
it just grew exponentially.
That fan base sounds so rabid. They probably wanted it. They're like, the Titanic needs blood.
Yeah, literally.
We need another sacrifice.
We have to feed the legend or else it will die. And the Titanic being cursed, you mentioned it earlier. I mean, that's absolutely part of the narrative.
We kind of just came up with a pretty fun little conspiracy. This is a pretty fun little Titanic conspiracy. Yeah.
Yeah, the Titanic has a mind of its own. Yeah. It's thirsting for blood.
It's like Ghost Ship. It's like that movie Ghost Ship.
That trash movie, dude, Ghost Ship. I know that movie, dude.
Do you like that? That was like one of the last movies I remember that I was just like, damn, they're not even trying.
I remember seeing that in theaters with Touche and be like, what is this movie, man? This is terrible.
Because like
I was just old enough, probably.
Yeah,
just old enough to recognize it was bad.
We were just old enough to recognize it was trash, and like all the actors were B grade, and the special effects were not very special. And I just remember watching it and being like, this. I feel like they're trying to get one over on me, and in so many ways they were.
They did.
They always
bought
are.
The ticket. We must have seen this movie together. I feel like
possibly because that would have been high school era.
Now this is the movie, right? This is the movie with the opening scene where the cord like cuts everybody in half on the dance floor, right?
And it was at that moment that I knew the movie was trash. I didn't even
tried to
pass that part.
They tried to do a Final Destination. They were like, we're going to open with the most like violent, shocking scene we can think of, and it's going to spill out from there. And that's just all. The only scene I remember is the cord.
You never go full Final Destination. Everyone, even Final Destination knows that.
It's true. It's a good movie. That first one was a good movie. But yeah, Ghost Ship. Fuck that movie.
Yeah, fuck that movie. Fuck the Titanic. Fuck the Titan Submersible. Fuck Stockton Rush. Fuck the Hubris. We're over this. We're done here. Mike, thanks for joining me on this podcast. I guess we'll have to wait for the next sacrificial tragedy before we have you on again to pick
Please call me up
to pick the meat from the bones. But I don't know. Maybe next time we can pick a even more obscure topic and I can yell at you for an hour.
Hey,
this is awesome, dude. Thank you for coming on here.
Hey, it was my pleasure. My pleasure. Much love.
This is again, like so many conversations we've had. I felt at the end of it, I felt like I'm just like the crazy lunatic, and it felt so good to get yelled at. It felt so good to get.
Is that what it felt like?
No, dude, because like you're passionate, and you learned about this shit on your own free will. Like you absorbed the information, so it was cool to.
I'm not proud of that, but
why?
Oh, I'm not proud that, there's so many things I'm uneducated about, but for some reason my brain was like, oh, this is entertainment.
Dude,
this is content. I need to learn about it. I don't know. Can't explain it.
If we get one or two of those every couple of weeks, we're doing pretty good. Life ain't that bad, I guess.
That's
but
true.
anyways, we're done with this. We're done with this stupid fucking show. Thank you, Mike, again for being on, and stay on afterwards so we can chat. Everybody else, see you later.
This has been the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. The End. With your host, James Oliva. Executive producers, Clint G and James Oliva. That's obnoxious. Sound design, mix, and master by James Oliva. Literally no one cares. For more Totally Legitimate Business, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Totally Legitimate Business or add us on TikTok at TLB Pod. When will this end? Thank you for listening. Now get back to work. Move it along, buddy.